Okay, I switch it to another one. Okay, I switch to the second session.
Okay. Thank you. Dear colleagues, let's check all our presenters this session. Session is related to critical requirements engineering and other topics on area of safety critical systems. Please check our reports. Professor Vladimir Skляр here.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, nice to hear. Nice to hear you, Vladimir. Okay, thank you. Next one, Professor Tatiana Говорущенко. Tatiana Alexandrovna, are you here?
I'm here and I try to share my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Next one is report 7070, Olena Surinovich, Yuri Lukyanchuk.
Yes,
I'm here. I see and hear Olena, thank you. Next is Professor Anatoly Kulik and his team from HAI. I see you here, thank you. And then next to presentation, Evangelia Asana Sidou and Stefania Zoy. You are here? Okay, well, we'll wait. And last one, Georgi Antonio, Nikos Bardis, Ioannis Gonos, and Konstantine Katras. Okay, we'll check later. Thank you. Hence, we have all presenters and can start. It's my pleasure to invite for first presentation Professor Vladimir Skляр, National Aerospace University, for his presentation. Our timing is the same as previous days. 15 minutes for presentation and 5 minutes for discussion. Thank you very much, all participants, all reporters, and let's begin our talks. Welcome, Vladimir. Please share your screen.
Good morning, everybody. I'm sharing my face firstly. It's my pleasure to be here and to be part of the conference. So yes, I'm sharing a screen with presentation. And I believe everybody can see slide and can hear me. So yes. Unfortunately, I have not a perfect internet connection. So if some problems, I load video on YouTube and link is in the chat.
Thank you, Vladimir. Thank you.
So I need to tell you, I represent National Aerospace University HAI, and also I am working for software outsource company ArcHAI as lead business analyst. So this results is some synergy between academia and industrial experience. So what is our agenda today? As concept and motivation, I would propose you some background in business analysis and requirement engineering. After that, I would focus on the main idea of my presentation, and there are a lot of modern and effective methods of requirement engineering which are developed for non-critical IT industry. So since it's proven in use and well recommended, maybe it's make sense to do some convergence between critical and non-critical IT. So adopt non-critical technology for critical domain. Of course, very carefully and very slowly, but I would like to show outcomes, how it works for security and safety critical domains. So what is business analysis? We have some basic guide, which name it BABOK, Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, issued by International Institute of Business Analysis. And this guide gives us the main concept of business analysis and many methods, many techniques for requirement engineering and how to work with requirements, with stakeholders. The main entity are presented on this slide. So there are changes, solutions, context, values, stakeholders, and needs. So business analysis, it's mainly about some positive changes in business, in organizations, based on IT solutions. And from the point of view of requirements, they are structured in some parts. So we have business requirements, stakeholder, solution, and transition requirements. Another part which support specification writing is requirement engineering. There is some another main organization, IREB, International Requirement Engineering Board, and this organization also has issued some useful handbook, and they stated requirement engineering as systematic and disciplined approach to the specification and management of requirements. And maybe a lot of you have seen before this slide, but for me it's still impressive. So a statistic is that a cost of software error at maintenance and operation stage is 100 times more than the same activity on design stage. And for safety and security critical system, maybe this ratio is some 1,000 times, because we have risk to compromise our privacy data, we have hazard for people's lives and environment, and it demonstrates us importance of requirement specification. But the keywords in requirement specification is sufficient, clear and ambitious, and right requirement specification, sufficient. Because if we view another statistic, what is the root cause of system failures and incidents, we can see specification mistake or some unclearance in specification produce 44% of system incident. And in fact, we need to add to this number also 20% of modification, because modification are usually also based on specification. So mistake in specification produce 2/3 of all system failures. At the same time, human errors during operation and maintenance produce only 15% of incidents and failure. Some words about what are systems which we are going to discuss and for which we are going to produce requirement specification. This is Cyberphysical Systems with different reference architecture. So the simplest are one board embedded computers, but here you can see more complicated architecture. For example, Internet of Things system have 4 layers: device, network, service, and application. And reference architecture of industrial control system has 5 levels, since field devices such as sensors and actuators. After that, we have programmable logical controller, some level of data gates and servers, control systems, SCADA system, and after that, factory management and enterprise management system. And also there are some hybrid architecture, hybrid between IoT and industrial control systems. This architecture, industrial Internet of Things system, and it combines some control devices, mobile and non-mobile, and remote site with remote terminal units which can contain some set of industrial control system on, and all these devices are integrated via cloud. So what we can take from non-critical requirement engineering to safety and security critical domain. And this diagram show us some relation between all these entities. So the main entity and knowledge area is business analysis, and requirement engineering is part of business analysis. And what is important from requirement engineering techniques are firstly domain engineering. If we are speaking about safety and security critical domain, this is a set of engineering methods to develop such system. A part of domain engineering is domain specific modeling, which is focused to simulate functionality of systems. And from the other hand, we have some set of development method, for example, test-driven development and behavior-driven development, and intersection of these two areas, domain and development, is domain specific languages. Now, how to implement all this stuff for safety and security critical domains? For this, we propose some multi-steps approach, and all tasks are based on some techniques and tools and provide us results. So firstly, we do domain knowledge analysis with using of our knowledge base. Of course, we need to have some pre-developed knowledge base and procedure how to extract knowledge from this base. If we use some knowledge base, we can select some reusable components as requirement, parts of requirement specification, parts of UI, user interface design, or parts of software code, or some even technical hardware solution. After that, we need to do context analysis of new system and validate selected solution applicability against new context of operation. After that, we can define approach of requirement engineering. And for this research, for this case, we choose requirement engineering approach, which is based on behavior-driven development with domain-specific language Gherkin, and it's supplemented for specification non-functional regulatory requirements. It's supplemented with assurance-based development. Now, these things in detail. So this diagram presents domain-specific modeling procedure of knowledge management. In the center, a core is, of course, knowledge base. And if we are going to produce, to develop some new control system, cyberphysical system, we have as input of this project and marketing strategy, because we usually are acting like some business to create incomes and profit. So for knowledge base, we need to have a system of domain tags. And after that, we are going to extract some solutions as three parts. So general reference base of our experience in this domain. After that, technical part, like structure of function and some pieces of solution, and marketing part, as for example, value proposal Canva or ideal client profile, and so on. Some more details about this procedure. So we perform some set of tasks: domain overview and trend analysis, domain segmentation, creation of reference base, analysis of terminology, analysis of the typical solution and user experience, and analysis of target audience. So again, as output, we have domain knowledge and solution divided in 3 parts: general, technical, and marketing. Now about, it was domain-specific modeling. Now about domain-specific language. So we choose proven in use language Gherkin, and by the way, it can be used with some testing system, for example, Cucumber, for description and programming of test cases and scenarios. So this kind of scripts are interpreted with large testing systems. It's quite simple. So we have some restricted set of operators, and for example, how can it be done for some simple login scenario. So some preconditions given: the user drop in the login page, and what should they do? User need type correct login, for example, email or any other kind of email. After that, user needs to type correct password and click the login button. This is action of user, and if these actions are performed, then user drop in the profile page. So you can see it's quite easy. And here another example of Gherkin application. It's like outcomes, how we can describe functional requirement specification. So this is transition diagram for programmable logic controller. It's quite easy and quite typical, but it's taken from some real safety controller specification. So we can see 5 states: power off, startup, run, tuning, and fall. To run controller, we need come through startup mode. After that, we can go in tuning to make some setup, and from each of the state we can have fault, and we can go back to the power off mode. And how to describe it in Gherkin? So precondition given PLC is in power off mode, so it's not all scenario, it's only transition from power off mode through startup to run. So precondition is power off mode, and when operator performs some set of actions, so usually it's switch on of the controller, but can also to be some connection or some preconditions, and then PLC enters startup mode, and in this startup mode, usually automatically some features are performed, and when these features or these actions are completed, then PLC enter in run mode, and it can operate and perform some designated features. But it's not all things. For safety and security critical system, we need to implement some regulatory requirements. So this approach is based on assurance case, and it was described and discussed in some many our preliminary presentations and papers. We have some main goals. For example, it's taken from some real case assurance case against the requirement of IEEE 61508 functional requirements, and for documentation we have some main claim. Documentation have to comply with standard requirement. We do some reasoning step and receive some lot of sum subclaims extracted from the text of standards, and for each of the claim we need to have next evidential step, and it supported some step of evidence from our documentation and activity. And all this can be described with structured text. And last but not the least, since we are working for university, we try to implement this synergy between safety, security, and business analysis in our education program. And for our master students, we have a discipline, functional safety of industrial control system. And we try to combine it with some business analysis input to teach our students build stronger and clearer requirements specification. But the main outcome is it works very well for students with some industrial and business experience, but for just after bachelor students, it's not so clear the value of this synergy. So conclusions. Today we have a lot of proven and used and effective methods of business analysis and requirement engineering, and our task is to implement it for safety and security critical application. The first part of the proposed approach is domain-specific modeling related to knowledge management, and the second part is implementation of getting domain-specific language for description requirements for cyber physical systems, and we implement functional requirement specification with non-functional regulatory requirement specification, which is done with assurance case methodology. And that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now we have 2 minutes for question and answer. Welcome.
Vladimir Alexandros here. Thank you very much for the presentation. One question. I know pretty nicely the domain you're talking about. My team has just finished SEAL2 6158 gas detector project together with Exida. One problem I see quite often for us as engineers working with this, that our clients, the people who pay for the projects, they don't want to invest into this complex requirements process. They just say, okay, we have 2 pumps we want to control, we have 2 sensors, so just do it. You are professionals. You don't want to be part of the specification process. How do you recommend to tackle this problem?
No, my experience is for safety critical application, it's pretty simple because we have some regulatory requirements. If we can comply with these requirements, it's a successful project. If we don't comply regulatory requirements, even for the best of the best product, we cannot implement it because any regulatory authority can cancel this project, and that's all. So it's mandatory, and it's again requirement specification and safety case approach. It's also from our certification project with Exida, but against SEAL3 level.
Okay, I fully understand this. The problem here is that you get to know, when you start the project, you get to know that it's not compliant like 5 years down the road. When customers actually also realize that something has been done wrong. But the problem is that when you want to go into the project, when you bid for the project, really on long and complex requirements parts of the project. How you normally onboard customers, how you explain them. It's good that, in the end it will be a big problem, but thinking about end in the beginning, that's a problem.
No, it's a question maybe of education of customer. Maybe we need to teach them a bit. And the best approach is, of course, when you have already certified product, yes? So we have platform or product and we have a system. So when we have certified product, we can build a certified system from this product. If you will certify a product, a component during implementation of the system project, yes, it's could be a problem, and not every customer will be happy with it.
Understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much, Vladimir. Thank you for your synergy in area academic, in area industrial, not only IT industrial. Vladimir is an example of experience from 5 years as technical director of RPC Radi, as professor of our department, and I think such combination is perfect in point of view university department and students. Thank you very much for your presentation. And
Thank you.
And let's go ahead according with our program. Our next presenter is Professor Tatiana Govorushenko from Khmelnytsky National University. Welcome, Tatiana, if you could share your screen and present your paper. I know the problem with energy consumption, but hope for such possibility.
Thank you, Vyacheslav Sergeyevich. Dear colleagues, good morning. My name is Tatiana Govorushenko. I don't have a stable internet connection, but I try show my presentation. And can you see my presentation now?
Yes, we see and we hear you. Please.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Our presentation is characteristics and method of forming the user information portrait and identification of a user on the internet is legitimate calculation and setting of a unique identifier for each browser that visits a certain site. Such identification has a number of advantages. The ability to distinguish ordinary users from bots, the ability to save user preferences and apply them on the next visit, personalizations services, detection of fraud on the internet and the launch of targeted attacks, detection of intrusion, ability to form contextual advertising, and targeting of information. Identification of the user provides an opportunity to form his information portrait. The concept of information portrait of a user outlines the basic information required for the verification of a certain user's data. It is a set of all user data and the results of his communicative activity. And so the components of the user information portrait are the web content created by the user on the internet, as well as his personal data. Therefore, the creation of information portrait of the user is an actual task for today. And the analysis of known methods and solutions showed that the analyzed methods and tools don't solve the problem of forming the information portrait of the internet user. So the purpose of our study is to select the characteristics of the information portrait of the user and to develop a method of forming the information portrait of the user on the internet. And we have selected characteristics of the user information portrait. The information portrait of the user is the set IPU, which you can see on the slide. Information content of the internet is the set ICIN, and set of characteristics of the internet is the set KWIN. The characteristics of the internet user include all data related to a specific user and his activities on the internet, namely open registration data, which he provides when registering in various social networks, online stores, web services, surveys, etc. Now this set consists of 50 characteristics, which are presented in our paper, but the set of 50 characteristics is not complete, of course, and the number of these characteristics may change due to the possibility of obtaining information for such characteristics. And now this set only shows an example of such characteristics as at this moment of time. The analysis of the characteristics of the information portrait allowed us to conclude that the information portrait of the user is formed by the first 45 characteristics from 50 characteristics. And this set is IPU TG. The analysis of the characteristics made it possible to form a set of characteristics which form the information portrait of the user, which will be used for the forming the image of the user. These are 25 characteristics which you can see on the slide. This is set IPU-IM. Using the methods of user identification on the internet to collect the characteristics, now we have developed a method of forming the user information portrait, which consists of the next stages. The first stage is using the methods of user identification on the internet to collect the characteristics that form the information portrait of the user for the targeting of information and to fill the set IPU-TG. Second stage of our method is using the methods of user identification to collect the characteristics that form the information portrait, which forms the image of the user on the internet, and to fill the first row of the matrix IPU-IMT. For each characteristics, third stage of our method, for each characteristic that forms the information portrait of the user, for forming of the user's image, to find out the web resource from which this characteristic was taken, and to fill the second row of the matrix IPU-IMT. Fourth stage of our method, to analyze with the involvement of experts the web resources from which the characteristics were taken, and to analyze the elements of the second row of the matrix IPU-IMT. Next stage of method is to establish the degree of trust with the involvement of experts too in the web resources from which the characteristics were taken. To establish the degree of trust in the elements of the second row of the matrix IPU-IMT. The degree of trust is numbers from the range from 0 to 1, where 0 is a web resource that cannot be trusted at all, and 1 is a web resource that has 100% degree of trust. And to fill the third row of the matrix IPU-IMT with the values of the degrees of trust. And last stage of our method is if the value of the degree of trust is in interval from 0.5 to 1. That is the degree of trust in the web resource from which the age characteristic was taken is at least 50%. Then to transfer then to transfer the element of the first row of the matrix IPU-IMT into the set IPU-IM as its age element. The developed method makes it possible to determine the characteristics that form the user information portrait for targeting of information and for forming the user's image on the internet. An important aspect of the developed method is that when determining the characteristics that form an information portrait for user's image on the internet, the degree of trust in the web resource from which this that characteristic is taken is considered. In our paper, we have conducted the case study of the implementation of the developed method, and this case study illustrated the work of the developed method and forming the information portrait of user for targeting information and for forming user image. And conclusions, in our research we have selected characteristics that form an information portrait of the user. We have developed method of forming the user information portrait, and we have conducted the case study, and our future directions of our research are increasing the set of characteristics of the internet user, prioritizing and weighting characteristics of the internet user, and using of the behavioral mechanism of the social networks for user identification. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now we can ask Professor Rushenko about this report. Welcome. My short question. Your presentation is related to aspect of internet safety as well, as I understood. I mean, it's development of portrait of users in point of view, customers of different human interaction aspects. Yes.
Yes. User information portrait may be useful for targeting information, for advertising, for social sciences, and for safety, for safety provided, because it will be oriented for detection of fraud on the internet, the launch of targeted attacks, detection of intrusion, etc.
Thank you. And the second very short question: can this approach, these techniques, can be used for assurance of internet safety for childs? I mean, we know this problem for children, and what about this aspect of possible application in your research?
No, I think that our method can be used for this task, but now we don't have considered this task.
Yes, but I think it would be very interesting to to analyze this possibility because it is very important part of internet safety. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we invite for presentation our next colleagues from Lutsk National Technical University. Please, Dr. Olena Surinovich.
Good morning. I have now electricity and I use mobile data internet. So if I have problem, please say me, okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, you can. Can you do full screen?
I don't know how it.
Сначала. Or F5.
F5.
You have закладка с текущего слайда сначала. You can push.
Sorry, I can do it. Maybe if I.
Okay, let's continue. Let's continue. We see your
Okay. So let me introduce one more. I am Olena Surinovich from Lutsk National Technical University. Let me introduce our research, QR and 3D technologies integration in safety projects. So today I'll try you to explain problems in Ukraine and Europe. I show you our results and our development. So I think this information will be useful for all because we have many of us have children's or some nephew. So I think it will be useful. Every 20 children go missing in Ukraine every day. And why child go missing in Europe?
Excuse me, Olena, do you switch on your slide because we see just first one? Okay, thank you.
This one child go missing in Europe each 2 minutes a day. This sad statistic has been increasing every year. The protection of children is a priority for Renew Europe. Every year, thousands of children go missing. Also, there is no statutory publication of statistics on missing children in the European Union. Some organizations estimate that 300,000 children disappear every year. This terrible situation cannot be allowed to continue. Can you see the next slide?
Yeah, yes, it's okay, please.
The worst situation is in Ukraine now. Let's remember one situation, which photo was on All World's newspaper. A Ukrainian mom subscribed her contact info on her daughter's bag. It was hasty action, so this information couldn't be erased from child's bag. Nobody couldn't help this little girl because she couldn't speak. Our research is devoted to the actual problems of identifying young children in the absence of parents who cannot identify themselves. For Ukraine, this problem is very relevant in connection with the resettlement of people from areas where hostilities are taking place. So we proposed an approach for identifying children through a combination of 3D printing technologies and QR codes. The increasing of mobile internet and portable devices have opened up a wide range of possibilities to the world. So today, the use of QR codes has become an integral part of a daily life or job. QR codes can be seen in places and objects such as magazines, business cards, electronics devices, T-shirts, and so on. A QR code is a type of barcode that can be read easily by digital device and which stores information as a series of pixels in a square-shaped grid. The data stored in a QR code can include website URLs, phone numbers, or up to 4,000 characters of text. Most smartphones has built-in QR scanner, which are sometimes built in the camera. A QR scanner is simply a way to scan QR codes. So scanning a QR code using your device is straightforward. QR code generating software does not call personally identifiable information. The data it does collect and which is visible to the code's creators includes location, the number of times the code has been scanned, and what times plus the operating system of the device which scanned the code. So on these slides, you can see four widely accepted versions for QR codes. The QR code printed on the product packing or the other paper goods is difficult to read because the packing material can be slightly wrinkled or uneven. The advantages of printing a QR code on a plastic is that its surface has gradation. It could be more useful to print QR code on some hard surfaces. It will help to scan this code without some mistakes, for example. The solution to this problem is to print a QR code on 3D sinks. Let's describe all advantages of 3D printing. 3D printing enables you to produce complex shapes using less material than traditional manufacturing methods. Where 3D printing was only suitable for prototyping and one of manufacturing in the early stages, it is now rapidly transforming into production technologies. PLA plastic for 3D printing must be used for our experiment. PLA is more environmentally friendly than other plastic. So since it belongs to the ground of biodegradable polymers, it is far friendlier to the earth than conventional plastic like ABS that have no chance of degrading into the next, I think, near 100 years or more, even more. PLA is biodegradable, biocompatible, and renewable thermoplastic polyester, which is mainly derived from corn starch. The monomer lactic acid of PLA is derived from natural sources. Lactic acid is produced using bacterial fermentation of corn, sugarcane, potatoes, and other biomass. Figure 10 shows the life cycle of PLA product. You can see on my slide. PLA provides several advantages over other materials, including, first, environmentally friendly if disposed of correctly. Second, easily to 3D print. Third, safe for use in applications such as food containers and medical devices. And fourth, comes with a wide range of composite and color options to provide different properties and appearance. Analyzing the situation about the children's missing, measures for more children's safety must be taken immediately. It is proposed a unique accessory that has the QR code. QR code will include some simple database with information about parents, their phone numbers, or some information about the child's illness. 3D accessory will consist of PL plastic. No, I said it that is biodegradable and decomposes totally in 12 years, and they can have different design. Database includes the simple Excel table or simple Google documents with some information. If to talk about iPhones, there can be some problems with Excel tables. So Google's documents would be more useful in this case. You can see it on the picture 13. If to plan create a database with some another information, for example, not only parents' numbers and so on, we have used MySQL. So another advantages of our product is the material which does not cause allergies in children, does not tear, unlike paper or fabric. The material of our product is PLA plastic. It's safe and fully biodegradable for 12 years. The main advantages includes increased resistance to the influence of external factors and the possibility of restoring information compared to printing with ink on paper or other materials. The information will be saved under the influence of destructive factors such as high humidity, medical, thermal, chemical, and other types of influence. This becomes especially relevant in the conditions of war. We made the poll. 300 respondents took a part in it. The next diagram shows the survey results. You can see it on figure 14. 92% of parents worried about the safety of the children. 74% were interested of our idea and our product. And 21% of parents wanted to use our product. The next stage of our research was the presentation of our product and its usefulness. It has been used Facebook, where some posts about our product were prepared. Then these posts were shared in different groups. For example, if you use Facebook, you can see different groups. It can be local city groups, many mothers groups, and so on. Then TikTok with information about our product has been used too. This social network helped to interest not only parents, but their children who wanted to have cool accessories and to be different from others. This product in entertainment centers was presented too by us. Data analysis of various sources regarding public interest in our product is presented in figure 15. The results suggest that children are interested in using an accessory just to be fashionable. They didn't understand the importance of safety because they are so little. Using TikTok, entertainment centers, and sometimes Facebook, they ask to buy this accessory only for entertainment. But these results show that their parents are more interested in children's safety. And the best results of it is to present our development in entertainment centers, where it can be explained how it works, and then it can be presented this accessory for some parents free. To establish the interest of the authorities, a question about occupation was included in the survey. You can see it on figure 17. The results show that 46 of people work in state structure. For example, I remember it: police, medicine, state emergency services. So in this case, the interest of this category of the population in our product will allow us to bring information about solving the problem of children's missing to the authorities. We researched the world's market and found some similar product. For example, a QR code pet tags is a digital pet ID tag. Instead of print name and phone number, these tags have a QR code that links to the pet owner's contact details. When someone scans the code, they get the pet owner's contact information. They can seamlessly contact the owner and inform them about the pet. But our product has more advantages that it shows on this slide. Future research can be dedicated to development and implementation of the difficult database that will include information about insurance policy, child's illness and blood group, or some another information. The database will include a privacy feature that will be accessible by medical, police, and emergency services. This can help improve safety and save lives of more children. The combination QR code and 3D printing technologies to create unique accessories that are useful and vital for children's safety have been proposed. The advantages of printing a QR code on plastic is that its surface has gradation, unlike paper, which can be damaged. QR code will include the information about parents, their phone numbers, or some information about child's illness. Database includes the simple Excel table or the simple Google documents with some information. If to plan create database with some another information, we will use MySQL. PL plastic for 3D printing must be used for our experiment. PLA is more environmentally friendly than other plastic. It's safe and fully biodegradable for 12 years. It is predicted that our development will be of interest on many parents around the world. It can be useful in the security system of local communities, police, medicine, and other emergency devices. So, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your extremely interesting and important presentation. Thank you very much. And now we can ask Olena for your report. Welcome for questions.
Alexandros here, Olena, thank you for your presentation. Great idea. I saw it a couple of times on Kickstarter as well, something similar. I would recommend for your future product idea is to include NFC inside the plastic, because it will help you to store much more data, and it doesn't require any energy. So you can, because NFC uses, energy from the phone, so you can reduce the size of the SQL database.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? And my question is, what about any maybe specific measures to assure security of your application, or you use standards techniques to assure security of this product?
Nowadays, we have one solution. If parents want to use our product, they must subscribe agreement that their information can be used. So that one. And the next step, if you can say that if the child have this accessory and everyone can scan this QR code, but the child must not move, must stay, and so on. So it can be impossible. I think.
Similar dear service. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No, thank you very much, Elena, for your interesting presentation and very perspective work and useful work. Thank you. Okay, our next talk, according to this program, number 283. Authors of this paper: Anatoly Kulik, Andrei Chukhrai, Alexander Yevdokimov, Irina Trofimova, and Tatiana Stolarenko, National Aerospace University, Kharkiv. Alexander, you will present, yes?
Yes, thank you. One moment. So sorry for an internet connection. It could be some problems, but I hope it will be okay for you to hear me. Yes, one moment. Could you see my screen?
No, we see your screen, but don't see your presentation. Okay, now it's okay, and just full screen. Okay, everything okay. Welcome, Alexander.
Good afternoon, dear participants and organizers of the conference. I'm Alexander Yevdokimov, a PhD student representing High University and software engineering industry. And I would like to propose to your attention research work, relevant objectives of developing SQL adaptive learning technology. This topic is general enough because existing researches and advances are so limited and need to be structured in such form of overview research. The structure of presentation consists of the 5 parts: motivation and state of the art of the problem, strict objective of the research, main results that we obtained, case study, and conclusions. Here I would like to provide some data on why is this problem so important and relevant for today. From the standpoint of systematic process management, in general, traditional teaching of knowledge and skills is characterized by a number of destabilizing factors that negatively affect the quality of students' training. There are many of them. Psychological perturbing effects on students and tutors, as an example, distracting thoughts, mood swings, and so on. Next, students' difference that negatively impact the learning process is that they have different pace of learning. And also George Miller's restrictive 7 ± 2 limit on tutors' capacity for information processing. So the tutor is not able to grasp and control their learning path of our students for more than 7 ± 2 students simultaneously. But the key drawback is the fundamental impossibility of adapting to each student. Why is SQL? SQL dominated the jobs ranking in IEEE Spectrum's interactive rankings of the top programming languages this year. Normally, the top position is occupied by Python or other mainstays such as C, C++, Java, and JavaScript. But the sheer number of times employers said that they want developers with SQL skills, albeit in addition to a more general purpose language, boosted it to as number second. Also, the ever-increased use of databases, one. SQL has become the primary query language for accessing and managing data stored in such databases, specifically relational databases which represent data in table form with rows and columns. Databases serve as a foundation for many enterprise applications and are increasingly found in other places as well. For example, taking the place of traditional file systems in smartphones. Also, a lot of technology infrastructure uses relational databases to store and query their data. And while not the only way, SQL is still considered the main way of, or most powerful way to interface with relational databases. Beyond the utility of databases in themselves, big data and
Alexander, do you hear us? Dear colleagues, 1 minute is we have some technical problem. Alexander, as I know, as I see, tries to reconnect. Так, что сделать?
could you hear me now?
Yes, we hear and see. Please.
Yes, I will continue. Sorry for the.
Yes, we see. Maybe switch off your video.
Yes, it's okay. It's switching from the generator electricity to plain electricity.
Okay, please continue.
Yes. Could you see presentation? Yeah.
Yes, okay, please continue.
Beyond the utility of database in themselves, big data and the growth of streaming architecture are contributor to SQL's rise. Markets such as retail, e-commerce, and energy are seeing growing interest in application where data has to be processed and analyzed in real time, says Manish Devgan, Chief Product Officer at real-time data platform Hazelcast. The use of SQL within streaming systems opens up a new chapter in the story of SQL within the data domain. As shown in the widely cited review paper of Kurt van Len, the behavior tutoring systems, many adaptive computer learning technology can be represented as consisting of two loops, outer and inner. The outer loop is responsible for making a decision on the choice of the next task for the learner. The inner loop is intended for step-by-step assistance in solving the current task. Outer loop consists of formation of a set of tasks for subsequent selection block and task selection block. Inner loop consists of minimum step-by-step diagnostic information, specific diagnostic information in case of a wrong decision, and next step hint, assessment of skills, and solution overview. The strict objective of the research is to formulate actual scientific objectives of developing SQL adaptive learning technology. They would like to provide the main results obtained from research. Obtained results consist of 4 blocks: student modeling, adaptive mechanics, student submission query analysis, and SQL learning system for production. The most acceptable approach to its development, the smallest number of shortcomings compared to other approaches, and even their breadth of use for scientific purposes, we consider the probabilistic approach for student modeling. A Bayesian network is a directed acyclic graph in which verticals represents variables and arcs represents probabilistic dependencies between variables. Each were used in the student modeling. First, we examine a network consisting of 3 variables: skills, dependent from t time, object t plus delta t, and skills t plus delta t, where skills is the skill of the learner at time t. Object t plus delta t is the object entered by the student in the computer educational program at the moment of time t plus delta t. The domains of the values of the variable skills will be mastered or not mastered. Mastering or not mastering the skills, this means. And the variable object will be correct or incorrect. So the answer is right or wrong. The student skill at the moment of time t should affect the correctness of the student step at the moment of time t plus delta t, as well as her skill at the moment of time. In turn, the step taken by the learner must affect his skills at the next step. Thus, the variable skill must influence the variable object as well as the variable skills. On left down corner is provided a set of Bayesian networks for modeling the transformation of the student's skills in dynamics. On the right side is Bayesian networks for modeling the transformation of students' knowledge and skills when he or she solves a problem, taking into account the many components of knowledge and skills as well as diagnostic models. CKS is the ICE component of knowledge and skills at time t. The object introduced by the student, and DM, the diagnostic model. Note that not all components of knowledge and skills, as well as not all diagnostic models, can participate in communication with object. Their aggregates are determined by a specific calculation task and a step in its solution at the moment of time t. And in addition, not only the components of knowledge and skills can take part in the model, but also such a component as, for example, inattentions of activation of diagnostic models. Here is provided a method for implementing the inner loop based on series signal parametric diagnostics of system, where starting from input, their analysis on the answer to the case problem. If it's correct, then it increases and moves to the next problem. If not, if first it starts error indication, then analyzes next answer. If correct, moves so on, and if not correct, pointing to the location. Also, if then it is not still correct, then it indicates the components of competence, which is not correct in the answer. And on the last step, it could analyze of a similar problem. Because of the query's presentation redundancy in SQL for any problem, more than one correct SQL query might exist. Hence, it is necessary to verify whether a student SQL query fit a certain set of standards for a concrete given task. There is a method for analyzing the student SQL queries. Intelligent tutoring system based on this approach, where is high similarity, then lexical and syntaxis analysis take place, and syntactic tree comparison. There are some mistakes, system points, student mistake. If the tree is identical, the answer is right. If the similarity is low, then it checks performance on the database. If the tuples are different, answer is incorrect. And student proceeds with similar task. If the tuple sets are identical, so the answer should be right, and student proceeds with the next task. It is an example of SQL parsing tree that is presented here. Also, we started developed SQL tool where the presented approaches were implemented. The common structural components are presented that they utilize specific elements of knowledge components. And the tutoring course is divided on clusters, where in each cluster there is similar SQL queries. And these queries are dependent and belongs to different tasks. All data required by SQL is stored in two databases. The first of them is used for executing user queries and retrieve resulting rows to compare with the expected results. Second database is used to store data required for making tutoring decisions. It shows on this figure. We used clustering algorithm that use a specific method that calculates for estimation QNC dissimilarity. We used Hamming distance for such purpose. It calculated on this formula, where plus in circle is a binary XOR operation. Queries that have equal similarities with two or more centroids will be sent into a cluster with less amount of lengths at the current algorithm iteration. There is specified distance calculation, where h is a function for calculating distance between iQuery and centroid. Centroid is the object where we pre-save existing queries to the system. Theta is the number of queries in cluster. Theta is the total number of queries. Another peculiarity of SQL tool clustering algorithm is related to the calculation of this distance between queries to check if the query is similar.
Sorry, please 2 minutes for feedback.
Okay. Sum is the number of two variables, and it is checked for frequency. Case study were tested on real students of 29 students. The tutoring course contained 47 tasks with 67 etалons. And after testing, testing outcomes exceeds input testing by 27%. So 16 of 25 students made mistakes in each task, but during output test, each student correctly solved at least 2 tasks. This indicates effectiveness of SQL as a tool for supporting educational process on learning SQL programming language. Based on the analysis of existing adaptive computer learning technologies for teaching professional skills in various domain areas in terms of their function and pedagogical principles embedded in them, as well as the analysis of known systems for teaching the SQL query. The relevant scientific tasks of developing and adapting computer technology for learning SQL are formulated. It should be relational algebra course, relational calculus, SQL, and SQL introduction. And then it should be estimated for effectiveness using the taxonomy of learning effectiveness indicators. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alexander, for your presentation. Thank you, your colleagues, for this paper. And now we have time for questions. My short question, what about specifics of application, your methods and technique in conditions of online education? What is it? What is the difference when students are offline and students are online in point of view implementation of this technique and tool? I understand that now it's very important for all students and for all lecturers. Please.
We did not investigate the offline or online mode for only educational process because these approaches could be applied also in online and offline mode both, because there's a very big difference for student to use this system from the home or at the university, because it could be used for both ways of learning, both offline or online mode.
Thank you. Other questions, colleagues? I don't see, I don't hear. Thank you very much, Alexander, for your presentation and success in your work.
Thank you.
Okay, dear colleagues, we have next presentation 7770. Evangelia Azanasiou, and Stefania Zoe, you are here. I don't sure that these presenters here. And next one is 2919. This.
Hello, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
You didn't hear me. I'm sorry.
Please share your screen. Welcome.
Yes, 1 minute.
Sorry.
Can you see?
Yes, we see your monitor screen, but please share your presentation.
Okay. One minute. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hello, can you see me too?
Yes, yes, we see.
Okay.
We see you.
Okay.
Stefania, yes.
Did you say something?
No. Welcome for your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Stefania Zoe, and I will present a work entitled Thermoelastic Wave Scattering by a Penetrable Two-Layered Object. This has been done in collaboration with my professor Athanasiadou from the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens and the Department of Mathematics. We will start the presentation with a brief introduction to the scattering theory and some of its applications. We will continue with the formulation, the mathematical formulation of the scattering problem, and we will then proceed to study the well-posedness of this scattering problem and more precisely the uniqueness and existence of its solution. The scattering theory consists of a field in applied mathematics and more precisely in mathematical physics. It has many applications in various fields of science, such as in medical imaging, in the military, in seismology, in geology, etc. Two infamous scattering problem applications in medical imaging is the well-known ultrasound and the MEG. Moreover, in engineering and in the military, some also well-known applications are the sonar and the radar for detection of objects such as ships or smaller. Furthermore, in seismology and in the military, we can detect an earthquake or even a nuclear explosion, since the cause perturbation that generate P waves, or also known as longitudinal waves, and S waves, or also known as transverse waves. And these waves can travel many miles and be detected by sensitive seismometers. However, there are big differences between the seismogram of a natural earthquake and of those of an explosion, so the scientists can determine whether the data they collect correspond to an earthquake or to an explosion. Moreover, in engineering and in geology, the scattering problems are of importance since the signals of the scatter waves are helpful in providing information about the internal structures of the Earth and also helpful in exploration of valuable materials, such as in mineral, metals, etc. For example, oil companies can rely on seismic interpretation for selecting where to drill instead of just drilling randomly. Now, the scattering theory studies the effect of a discontinuity to the medium of propagation. More precisely, let D0 be the medium of propagation and D be a bounded region within the medium D0 that has different physical properties. This bounded region D is referred to as a scatterer and its surface is denoted by a 0. Now, when a propagating wave field is incident upon the surface of the scatterer, it scatters and a new field is generated that propagates from the scatterer to infinity. The original field is referred to as the incident field, denoted by Ewing, and the generated field is referred to as the scatter field and denoted by USCAT. In this work, the scatterer's interior is divided by a closed surface S1 into two layers, the layer D1 and D2. Moreover, both surfaces S0 and S1 are penetrable. This means that the incident field not only generates a scatter field, but it also penetrates the surfaces, and we have wave propagation in the scatterer layers as well. These fields that propagate in the interior of the layers D1 and D2 are referred to as total interior fields and are denoted with U1 and U2 respectively. All media in this work, the medium of propagation D0 and the D1 and D2 layers of the scatterer, are filled up by a homogeneous and isotropic thermoelastic material whose elastic properties are described by the Lamé constants lambda and mu and the mass density rho, as well as with thermal properties described by the coefficient of thermal diffusivity kappa. Moreover, time harmonic dependence of the form E minus I omega t is suppressed in all wave fields, where omega is the angular frequency and t is the time. Furthermore, a thermoelastic field is a four-dimensional field. It's denoted by U capital equal U comma theta, where U is a three-dimensional displacement field and theta is a scalar temperature field. Now, the governing equation of thermoelasticity is the Biot equation, which in a unified four-dimensional form reads as LU equals 0, the equation 2. L is a differential operator given in a 4 times 4 matrix form as seen in 3. Gamma and eta are coupling constants. Q is a thermal constant. In is the identity dyadic in In. And delta L is a Lamé operator. Now, the Biot equation 2 can be written equivalently as a system of equations 5 and 6. Equation 5 is a non-homogeneous Navier equation of elasticity, and equation 6 is a non-homogeneous heat conduction equation. The non-homogeneous terms of these equations 5 and 6 are the one containing the coupling constants gamma and eta. And this is the main focus of thermoelasticity, the coupling between the elastic and thermal properties of a material that leads to any deformation causing temperature change and vice versa. We mention now that the regular thermoelastic field U can be decomposed into 3 parts, the U1, U2, and US part. The first 2 parts, the U1 and U2, are a combination of a P wave, a longitudinal elastic wave, and temperature, whereas the third part, the US, is a purely elastic transfer wave. Now, each one of these 3 parts satisfy its own vector Helmholtz equation, and therefore each one of these parts propagate with its own wave number, K1, K2, and Ks respectively. We will now formulate the scattering problem under study. We start that that in the region of definition, the scatter field and the total interior fields satisfy the Biot equation of thermoelasticity. Then on the surfaces S0 and S1, transmission conditions are imposed, as we can see from equations 15 to 18, where B is a boundary operator given in a 4 times 4 matrix form, and A is a surface traction operator of elasticity, lambda 0 be the coefficient of thermal conductivity, and N being the outward unit normal vector on the surfaces. This transmission secure the continuity of the displacement field, the temperature field, the heat flux field, and the trace field upon the surfaces. Finally, the scatter field in the radiation zone satisfies the Couprage's radiation conditions that secure its radiative character and provide the appropriate decay for the problem to be well posed. Having mathematically formulated our problem, we will now proceed to the study of its well-posedness. We start with the uniqueness of solutions, and firstly we present a lemma, which is a relic-type lemma, that states that if U is a regular solution of the Biot equation, and if it satisfies the Couprage radiation conditions as well as the 2 conditions that we see in 25, then U is identically 0. SR denotes the surface of a ball that includes a scatterer in its interior, and the R is the green region of the figure that is inside the ball but outside the scatterer. Next, we sketch the proof. For a regular thermoelastic field, the relations 26 to 29 are valid. More about this can be found in the book of Couprage and his co-author, a big book regarding the theory of elasticity and thermoelasticity. From the first condition of the lemma, we obtain that theta is constant in the 0, and then from the radiation conditions, we conclude that theta is actually 0 in the 0. Substitution of this in 28 yields that the divergence of the displacement field is equal to 0, and then substitution in both in 26 yields that the U1 and U2 parts of the displacement part of the field is equals to 0 in the 0. Next, from the second condition of the lemma, and due to the vector Helmholtz equation of 29 as well as the vector Ellis lemma, we obtained that the US part of the displacement field is also equal to 0, which completes the proof. Next, we present a theorem, which is a uniqueness of solution theorem. Let U scatter and the U1 and U2 fields be regular solution of the Biot equation if they satisfy, if the scatter field satisfies the Couprage radiation conditions. Then the U scatter and the U1 field satisfy the homogeneous transmission conditions on the surface 0. And then the U1 and U2 satisfy the transmission conditions on S1. Then each one of these 3 fields is identically 0. What does this theorem actually say? It says that the homogeneous problem corresponding to our problem has only the trivial solution, which leads to our non-homogeneous problem having one solution, a unique solution. We sketch the proof. Let U be a thermoelastic field and U overline be its complex conjugated field. Then Betti's formula 32 is valid. And applying this Betti's formula for the U scatter field in the R, for the U1 in the 1, and for U2 in the 2, then summing them and using the transmission conditions, and then letting the radius of the sphere R tend to infinity and using the Cupratis radiation condition leads to 33, which actually leads to each one of these four integrals being equal to 0. And now from the first and second integral, using the Rayleigh's type lemma that we mentioned earlier, we obtain that the scatter field is 0 in the 0. Due to the continuity in of the scatter field as well as a homogeneous transmission condition of the surface is 0, we obtain that U1 equals 0 when the surface is 0. Moreover, from the third and fourth integral, we have that the θ1 and θ2 functions are constant in the 1 and the 2 respectively. And from the above, we conclude that θ1 is equal to 0 in the 1. From the continuity now of the field U1 and the transmission conditions, we also conclude that θ2 is equal to 0. Finally, regarding the displacement part of the field U1, we use the Holmgren's theorem and the unique continuation principle to obtain that the displacement U1 field is equal to 0, and proceeding successfully, we also obtain that the U0 field is equal to 0, which completes the proof. Let us now proceed to the study of existence of solution, starting by defining the single layer potential, thermoelastic potential V, and the double layer thermoelastic potential W, where phi and d and psi are four-dimensional vector fields referred to vector functions referred to as the densities of the corresponding potential. The star is a boundary operator given a 4x4 matrix form as in 37, and epsilon is a fundamental solution of the Biot operator L that is again a superposition of three waves of the form 39. And moreover, we define the boundary operators H, K, Z, and M generated by the thermoelastic potentials upon the surfaces. And we mentioned that the thermoelastic potentials V and W are solution of the Biot equation and satisfy the Cupratis radiation condition at infinity. And regarding the regularity properties and jump relations of these potentials, the following limiting values on the surfaces are valid. More precisely, relations 44 and 47 are continuous properties, continuous relations, whereas 45 and 46 are not continuous, are jump relations. Next, we use for a solution to our scattering problem as a linear combination of thermoelastic single and double layer potential. More precisely, we take the scatter field to be a combination of one single and one double layer potential, U1 field to be a combination of two single and two double layer potentials, and U2 being a combination of one single and one double layer potential. Using this form in the transmission condition of the problem, and then using the continuity properties or jump relations of the potential on the surfaces, we transform our problem into a system of integral equations, which can be written in matrix form as alpha and I16 times zeta equal B. Alpha is a 16 times 16 matrix that contains combination of the thermoelastic potentials and the boundary operators generated by them. Zeta is a 16 times matrix that contains the unknown densities, and B is a 16 times 1 matrix that contains the known boundary data. More precisely, alpha, zeta, and B are given by 52 and 53. And finally, we present a theorem, an existence of solution theorem, that states that there exists exactly one solution of the system alpha and I16 times zeta equals B, and we sketch its proof that we mentioned that the operators contained in matrix alpha are bounded. More about this can be found in the book of Natrosville and his co-authors in the references. Using the embedding theorem, they are compact in appropriate spaces, and therefore matrix alpha is also compact since also its entries are compact. Furthermore, matrix alpha and I16 can be shown that it is injective, and therefore using the Ries-Fredholm theory, it is invertible, which leads to our system alpha and I16 times zeta equals B having a unique solution which completes the proof. Here are some reference papers concerning the scattering theory and more of them about thermoelasticity, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Stefania, for your extremely complex and interesting report, your presentation. And now we have time for discussion of your presentation. Any question, please, dear colleagues? Okay, I have one question in point of view, maybe safety and security issues. Are there any restrictions of application your methods for such safety critical domains. Because in the beginning of your presentation, you talk about application of these methods in seismic detection system and so on. For example, for nuclear power plants, it's very important to detect any seismic wave to shut down of reactor if value of this seismic wave will be more than assumed. Please, your comments concerning restriction of application, restriction or maybe main benefits of these methods for such domains.
No, I don't have any restriction, but for us as mathematicians, we can our applications have how can I say it? We can approximate the solutions in how can I say it? In specific geometrical forms. For example, we as mathematicians can solve something for a sphere, for an ellipsoid, etc. But in our work, but in some other scattering theory applications, such as we mentioned the sonar and the seismogram, they can. There is no problem. They can. For example, for the nuclear that you mentioned earlier, it's already done. I mean, I had read that they in I don't remember the country. They found that there has been an exercise of an explosion, the military, because the seismograms read the seismogram. The scientists read the seismogram, and it had many S waves, which usually an earthquake does not. So if they say, why do we have so many P waves? It's an exercise, and they found that, which was very interesting. But I have read that some years ago.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Any other questions, colleagues? Okay, thank you once more, Stefania, and your colleagues for interesting presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, dear participants of our session, now we finalize our program. We have just one more presentation, 2919. Main reporter of this paper, Professor George Antonio, now in hospital. And he sent your presentation, and we can share it for all participants. If you would like to see his presentation now, I can do it. Is it needed or not? It is short presentation which consists of about 200 slides. Okay, I suggest to share this presentation during our website communication, and you can read paper of these colleagues and see presentation when it will be convenient for you. Okay, thank you. And we successfully finished our session. Thank you very much all presenters. Thank you very much all participants for questions, for answers, for discussion. And it's my pleasure to invite all of you for our final plenary session, which will be at 2 p.m. Athens time. Thank you very much once more, and see you later at our closing session. Thank you very much. See you. Or maybe any comments? No. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.